poppin'? Real ones. Logan Murdock here. Raja Bell in transit. Howard motherfucking Beck in the cut. He is live from Boston. I am live from Studio 6 in Los Angeles in the Spotify hub. It's good to see you, man. We're here to talk finals. What's going on? How you doing? You doing good at Beantown?
I'm doing great, man. I have met my goal of averaging at least one lobster-related meal per day. I think my lobster roll counts up to like 3. So it's been good. That's
How many lobster rolls do you eat before you get tired, though? Like, I mean, no matter how good lobster rolls are, you do get tired of lobster rolls.
I don't.
How many? What is your threshold?
It's impossible.
Oh, okay.
I once spent a week in Maine and just like did nothing but lobster the entire fucking week. So yeah, I cannot overdose on lobster apparently. But no, it's been
the streets say that Maine is fire, though.
What's that?
The streets say that Maine is fire. Like that Maine is a great place to go. Like I as being on the West Coast, that's just not some place I would go for leisure because it's just so far. But it seems like a vibe.
Yeah, it was not on my radar. It was not on our radar at all growing up in California. But we've been living in New York for 20 years, and we're like, hey, there's other states in the Northeast. We should go look at them. And yeah, Maine's gorgeous. They seem to have a lot of lobster there. So I'm going to stop talking about
speaking of happiness in the Northeast. Speaking of happiness in the Northeast, the Boston Celtics are up 2-0 in the NBA Finals. Won 2 games in very Boston Celtics fashion. The first game, obviously, was, they get into the big lead, and then they kind of hold on. And then the second game, I think the second game was a true testament to their dominance in the series thus far, and also foreshadowing, I think, the dominance that's about to come. It was at least watching it last night away from the arena. It seemed like no matter what the Mavericks tried to do offensively, the Celtics always had an answer, whether that be Drew Holiday, whether that be the multiple offensive options that they had. And the Mavericks offense was basically Luka Doncic, go figure it out, and you're not going to have any help. And that's just the way this is going to go. Is that indicative of how you feel like the rest of the series is going to go, or was this confined to these first 2 games, if you had to guess?
No, I think, with the exception of the fact that the Celtics have shot terribly and Tatum has been kind of blah, the series so far, Logan, I think has just shown us exactly what most of us expected. Like, not everybody, but I think the majority of...
Not me.
But yeah, you had to be different. I think most of us going into the series looked at it and said, all right, both teams have a great 1-2 punch, very differently constructed 1-2 punches. But if you were to call that even, if you wanted to just call that even, whether it is or not, if you wanted to call that even, the fact was 3 through whatever favored the Celtics heavily, just heavily. Drew Holiday, Derek White, Porzingis, if he was healthy, turns out he was healthy enough to have an incredible game 1. He's now a little banged up again. Al Horford, they just had more guys who can, on offense, do something with the ball in their hands, on defense, guard multiple positions, make life tough on Luka and Kyrie. And I feel like this has played out, I don't want to say exactly as expected, because again, I think the Celtics could be and should be even better than they've been. But there's a massive talent deficit between these teams after you get past the 2 stars for each team. So, that to me is the top line takeaway. I am not surprised at all that the Celtics are up 2-0. Yes, they played with fire a little bit yesterday or last night, as they're apt to do. But I can't remember who posted the clutch stats within the last several hours, but the Celtics team has been great in the clutch all season and in the playoffs. So the Mavericks just don't have enough. Luka's clearly banged up, and the Celtics, because they can play everybody straight up, there's just not a lot of places for Luka to find open shooters because they're not open. Between Horford and Porzingis, I think they're taking away a lot of the lobs. Like this Mavericks team was thriving off of lobs to Gafford and Lively. You're just not seeing a lot of that. Several people have well documented, including our colleague Michael Pina, that they've just taken away the corner threes that the Mavs thrive on. So it's made the Mavericks, who at their worst can be kind of stagnant and isolation heavy anyway, even more so. And I thought it was really striking in the first half. And Luka managed to start finding guys a little bit more in the third quarter, and they made a run. But the first half especially, it was like Luka pounding the ball, Kyrie pounding the ball, and not much else going on. And there's just not a lot of dynamism in that offense if you can play them straight up like that. If you're not helping off anybody, then it just all kind of stalls out.
Well, that's the tough part about when you're playing at this stage of the season, when you have two high octane scorers and not much to put around them, right? And I'm not saying that the Maverick supporting cast hasn't been really good this season. I think they have been good in spurts, right? You talk about Jones, PJ Washington's a big example, Lively too. But none of those other guys can create their own shots. And the only person other than Luka that can create his own shot on the roster is Kyrie, who had 16 points on 18 shots and has struggled to kind of get his rhythm. But more than struggling to get his rhythm, I don't think he even has his mojo, right? Who stole his mojo? Carm, do you know where his mojo is? Do you have any idea where his mojo is? Where the hell is his mojo, Beck? It's weird to see because they're, historically speaking, you've been around Kyrie. You've seen him in finals, right? I've seen him in big games before, and he seems to always have that chip on his shoulder and always have some sort of killer instinct. And I'm not saying that the killer instinct isn't there, but he doesn't have that oomph to himself. He doesn't have that swagger that he used to. Me and Raja opined in the last episode that he's being a little bit too nice and being a little bit too diplomatic, and I think that's affecting his game on court. But what have you seen just on the ground from? Has it surprised you what his attitude has been, and how have you thought that is translated to his game?
Is it too early in the show for Kermah to bust out his British accent so he can do Austin Powers saying he stole my mojo?
Let's do it. Let's do it real quick.
He stole my mojo. Does that work? Is that good?
Does that work, Mr. Beck?
Does that work for you, Beck? Does that work?
Phenomenal. Thank you, Kermah. I needed that. It was a long night. I'm really tired and a little punchy.
Cranky! Kyrie lost his mojo. Okay, sorry. Go ahead, Beck.
Phenomenal. No, I mean, it feels like there's a little bit to that, and I actually agree with you in some weird way that, like, seeing Kyrie be so placid and self-assured and philosophical about everything, you almost think like maybe he's too comfortable being this new evolved version of Kyrie that he needs a little of the edge. Although that said, I don't remember what the stat is. Kyrie's like 0-12 or something in his last 12 games against the Celtics. Is that in Boston or just overall against the Celtics? He can't. I
believe part of it. I mean, he hasn't won in Boston in years. Yeah. I think it was since 2021. I think he maybe won one game.
It's
Kerm, figure that out, please.
It's been a while. But look, like all psychoanalyzing aside, the fact is, and again, this is why the Celtics, I think, were heavily favored by just about everybody. They've got so many different bodies to throw at Kyrie, so many guys who can stay in front of him. So one possession, it's Jaylen Brown with all that length. Another possession, it might be Drew Holiday, who's one of the best defenders in the NBA, Derek White, Jason Tatum. Like, there's just, and it's the same thing with Luka. Like, the Celtics don't mind just switching everything all the time. And sometimes the Mavs are going for multiple switches, and it doesn't matter because whoever's in front of you is still somebody who can at least contain or cut off your passing lanes and make it difficult for you. And maybe Kyrie and Luka are making it harder on themselves by trying to do a little too much in isolation. But again, no one's, the Celtics aren't really doubling off anybody. So, if there's no rotation, then there's no open man. And I just think that, there's sorry, start over. I don't know if Kyrie's being psyched out by the crowd or not, but it is really loud in there. There are a lot of Kyrie sucks chants. They are booing him every time he gets the ball. none of this is new. And I didn't hear anything, like I wasn't in the bowl for game 1. I was back of house, but game 2, I was in there. I didn't hear anything from where I was sitting that was over the top, but they're consistently booing and they're doing the Kyrie sucks chants. And does that rattle you? He's been in the league long enough. You'd think not. I'm going to chalk most of this up to the fact that the Celtics are just that great defensively, and Kyrie can't get loose, can't get to his spots. But yeah, he's been abysmal. I ran into Shaq last night after the game, just crossing paths in the press room, and it was a very quick exchange, just kind of what's up, how's it going, blah blah. And he goes, "Kyrie's sticking up the joint." I'm guessing he said the same on air, so I hope I'm not divulging any like.
It's not a very hot take from Mr. Shaq.
No, it's not the hottest of hot takes. I think I can divulge that publicly, and I'm sure he said it on air because he was doing the NBA TV thing last night. So, but that's pretty much it. And like again, like the Mavericks don't have, as you mentioned, they don't have a lot of guys who can create their own offense, and so if it just becomes the Luka and Kyrie show, kind of taking turns, that's not going to produce a lot of efficient scoring.
It's really interesting to see, because I don't know if we've ever had, you've been in a league, around a league longer than I have, but I don't think we've had a situation where a guy who was a vet of a team go to another team and place his little homies who are now two of the best two-way players in the league all of a sudden. And now they're like, I'm talking about Kyrie, Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown, whom were young guys when Kyrie was on the Boston Celtics. And now it was a very rocky road when Kyrie was on the Boston Celtics. That's well documented. But now to come back around and you face your vet who wasn't great to you in the finals, and I know there's some animosity there. They're all good off the floor, but I know that they, like, you even see some of the stuff that Jaylen Brown is doing with his defense. He's talking shit. We'll talk about Jaylen in a second. This is actually my transition into Jaylen Brown. It's been really fun to see him transform into this version of a player, right? Where 2 years ago, he was trying to prove that, not only is he the best player, but that he can lead a team. And there were some legitimate questions in 2022 if he could do that. 2020 last season, if he could do that. And now he's kind of had this metamorphosis as the best player on the team in real time. What have you thought of how he's grown over the last couple of years? And what does this mean if he continues to do this? Because he's on track right now to be Finals MVP. What will it mean for him, not only league-wide, but for himself, if he's able to continue this metamorphosis into the best player on the roster?
It's pretty rare. And it's funny. Obviously, we spent a couple days here kind of laughing at and having fun with Jason Kidd, going all Phil Jackson and throwing out this.
That was a beautiful tactic of a divide and conquer, even though it was truth in there.
It was so transparent. And Kidd has this great way of just deadpanning things where, like when Phil Jackson would do this back in the day, there's kind of this twinkle in his eye as if he throws out some little line, and I'm trying to remember like a good example, but when he'd have those moments, you knew exactly what Phil was doing because there was a little bit of a smirk, a little twinkle in his eye, and he knows he's throwing something out there that we're all going to run with, and that's going to like fuck with the opposition. And Jason Kidd, because he's sort of monotone and sort of sounds the same no matter what he's saying, he could have just said like, the sky is blue, or I like peanut butter and jelly, or Jaylen Brown's their best player, and it all sounds the same the way he's saying it. It's all just very matter of fact, as if these are just obvious basic things. And he did it with a question that, like, it was a very open-ended question about like, hey, what's the challenge of dealing with Jaylen Brown? Well, Jaylen Brown's their best player, and so da-da-da-da-da. Like, it was very matter of fact. Anyway, I admired the very subtle shit stirring by Kidd. I didn't think it was necessarily going to have any impact on the Celtics. Like, those guys have been together too long, and this team has been there, done that. I didn't really think it was going to do anything, but hey, why not? Why not go for it? What's really rare, Logan, when we see 1-2 punches in this league, it's usually pretty clear. Like, okay, Michael and Scotty, we know who the alpha is there. We know, go back to our stupid Batman and Robin shit, but like we know who's number one, right? And it's always been pretty understood that it's Tatum and then Brown. And I don't know that we should.
Why was that though? Why do you think that was? Because we're on this point right now. We're seeing. Why did we anoint Tatum so fast? And I'm not even saying that we were wrong to do that. I'm just asking the why of it all. Like why were we quick to did Tatum just show signs earlier? Because what in your mind, why did we anoint Tatum as the face of the team?
I don't know
first.
I don't know that we anointed him. I mean, I think it was just kind of universally understood, whether it was the Celtics themselves and the way they constructed things, or whether it's other coaches and scouts around the league, and yes, the media too. But like, I think it was just pretty clear, like Tatum was the more polished and more well-rounded player. Jaylen Brown's made, huge strides.
You know what? It might have been it was the 2018 playoffs when Tatum that was so defining, when the Eastern Conference Finals, when Tatum dunked on LeBron. And when that happened, Jaylen Brown was coming off the bench. And it was just, it was a difference in series. He had a moment.
Yeah. I mean, I think that those moments make an impression, but I also just think that Tatum had the more well-rounded, polished game, was better with the ball in his hands for sure. Jaylen Brown, obviously a lot of turnover issues, and you cringed, in the past, at least, every time he put the ball on the deck. And so I don't think it was unwarranted, but where I'm going with this is that if Jaylen Brown wins Finals MVP, we're getting ahead of ourselves. And right now, like through 2 games, like Tatum is probably not Finals MVP, but like it might be Drew Holiday. If Porzingis has another big game, it might be Porzingis. Like, that sounds ludicrous, I know, but I don't know how the next couple of games are going to go and how long this series is going to go. But if Jaylen Brown wins Finals MVP, it will sort of stoke this discussion, right? Like, oh, we always thought it was the 1-2 punch was Tatum as the one, and now maybe it's the other way around. I don't know that it matters or anybody should actually care. Michael Pete and I were walking back from the game last night after filing our stories and just kind of talking about this and about the way that, on an individual level, Tatum, it feels like, is losing some ground because he's struggling in these finals, because, even with the Celtics being a 64-win team this year, right, he wasn't going to be any better than 5th in the MVP voting. And Pina's response at one point when I was like kind of noting some of this, he's like, and the thing is, it doesn't actually even matter. And I said, you know what? You're right. Like, if they win the championship, none of them should care. And we'll all dwell on it because this is what we do. We have to rank people within their era. We have to rank people historically. We have to talk about who's the alpha and all this stuff.
Check out the Ringer player rankings if you get a chance. Check out the player rankings on Ringer if you get a chance, just saying.
Yes. But this is what we do, right? But I think most players, not all, but most would say, you know what? I don't care. Maybe I don't win Finals MVP. Maybe I never win regular season MVP. Maybe people don't think I'm a top 5 player and I'm only top 10 or top 12 or something. If Tatum and Brown stick together for any length of time and this becomes championship one of potentially several, I don't think either of them are going to care necessarily whether they got the accolades like you do early in your career. Again, that was the lesson of, I hate to make it another Celtics reference, but that was the lesson of the 2007-8 team, right? Like, Pierce had done all kinds of great things on his own individually. Garnett had, Ray Allen had. None of them had won at the level that you really need to or that you want to. They all sacrificed. They win a championship. We know the story. And Brown and Tatum are younger than those guys were at that time, but they seem pretty comfortable with this arrangement. Like, I don't think anybody's complaining, Logan. This is not Shaq versus Kobe. They're, and this.
And I think they've always been, to a certain degree, comfortable with each other. I remember talking to Marcus Smart a few years ago, and he was like, they've always been friends. I mean, you guys might not have seen it, but they've always been in a good place. They've always been good, and now I think more than anything, this is just a coming of age for Jaylen, which is a good thing to see, right? And we always ask, and I brought up Marcus Smart, We always ask, the biggest thing that I'm impressed with, we always ask who was going to fill the void of Marcus Smart in terms of leadership. And now we're seeing that with Jaylen. And I'm impressed by that just to see how far he's come in the leadership category, right? Because he had to find himself in order to do that. And he's in a good place with that. So I think that should be the story. I know it likely won't be. The other side of it, though, just from a game on court standpoint, I want to talk about use this to talk about Jason Tatum. I think he's made 12 shots all series. He's not shooting the ball very well. He is doing other things very well. He's getting his assists, he's getting his boards. But we talked about how what's been affecting Kyrie. Is it something that's been is that kind of this not necessarily is it a mind thing that you think is affecting Tatum, or you think it's just the defense that he's facing right now that is influencing how his games have been from a shooting perspective?
No, I think it's more Tatum just missing shots. And that's the thing. Like, I think if you're the Mavericks, you're feeling I don't actually, based on what I saw from them last night post game, it doesn't seem like they're necessarily taking any moral victories out of any of this. But yeah, like they're a possession or two or a mistake or two away. You know, Luka has eight turnovers, uncharacteristic of him. But they're not that far off from maybe stealing a game. At the same time, though, like the Celtics are up 2-0, and their best player, yes, I'm still going to say Tatum's their best player. Their best player has been pretty awful. Like, he had a great assist game last night. It was a great playmaking game. 12 assists was his career high for, you know, playoffs, regular season, or anything. But probably Tatum's not going to keep shooting that poorly. And I think, like, if you're the Celtics, you're feeling pretty good. You're up 2-0, and your best player has not played his best by far. And this is a team that's been great on the road. So I don't think they're worried about playing in Dallas. By the way, can I do my they just held serve rant again with some stats?
Get in your fucking bag. Get in your bag.
Because Jason Kidd did it last night. I was waiting for it. I was waiting for they just held serve. I can't remember if he actually used that terminology, but it was they did what they're supposed to do. They won their 2 home
How many
games.
cliches have you heard throughout the finals before you get the held serve in your held serve bag? How many of the finals cliches have you heard?
I mean, that was the main one. There have probably been others. Okay. I haven't been mentally cataloging, but last night I was waiting for it. I was waiting for the justification. The team that's down 2-0 always has to do this. If you lost the first 2 on the road, you have to say, well, they just held serve. They just did what they're supposed to do when they're home games. Now we'll go do that. But it's bullshit. And these are the lies NBA teams tell us. Real quick. So in the playoffs, in a best of 7 series, the game 1 winner wins the series 75% of the time. And if the home team won game 1, they win the series almost 85% of the time. In the playoffs, the team that wins the first 2 games at home, which the Celtics have just done, win the series 92.5% of the time. And in the finals, the team that wins the first 2 games at home, they win the series 84.4% of the time. So it's not just holding serve. If you're the team without home court advantage, you really need to win one of those first 2 games and steal home court, because you're going to have to win on the road at some point.
Offhand, I don't think the team has done that since the Heat in 06, if I had to guess. They just ran the table after losing the first 2 games.
Yeah, that might be it. That might be it. I'd have to look it up.
And a lot of that had to do was they had 3 straight home games going back. That was the old 2-3-2 format.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I missed the 2-3-2 format. I like that better.
Yeah, but the players don't.
Yeah, well, it's all about me.
Fuck them. But no.
Anyway, when you're down 2-0, what it really means is you now have to win 4 of the remaining 5 against a team that you have not been able to beat on their home court yet. Like, that's what it really means. And it usually means that you're down 2-0 for a reason, that you're probably just not good enough to beat that team. So they didn't just hold serve. It's not as simple as that. The Mavs are in a tough hole right now.
It's the reason why I like just watching it last night. The Mavs, they can say, oh, we're 1 or 2 plays away from stealing a game, but they damn near have to be perfect to even win a game in this whole series. Like, they held they held the Boston Celtics to 45% from the field and 25% from 3-point range and lost by 7. And it wasn't even close. Like they cannot manufacture offense whatsoever outside of Luka. Maybe they might have a game. We always see it, the momentum game at home, right? Where you just beat the shit out of a team. Maybe it's game 3, maybe it's game 4. But when the chips are down and if like 2 of the Boston Celtics are on and they're playing shutdown defense, they win the game. They're so much better than the Dallas Mavericks, and I'm so embarrassed that I picked the Mavericks in 6. You don't even understand, Howard. I'm out here. I was so confident in that pick. What a hater I am, huh, Kerm? Fucking hater. But like where do you see the rest of this series going? I'm not saying predictions. I'm just saying, like just a foreshadow. Like I'm not saying who's winning it. Like based on what I just said and based on what you've seen from just the disparity in not talent, but just the disparity in roster construction, where do you see this series heading? I think it's over.
Yeah, probably. I mean, look, I said Celtics in 6, but in the back of my mind, it was, but we don't know what Porzingis looks like. So let's see what he looks like. If Porzingis looks really good, it might be Celtics in 5. And Porzingis looked incredible in game 1, not so great in game 2. And then he got banged up, and we'll see what that means for game 3. Porzingis, my God, talk about over dramatizing. Porzingis was asked afterward about, are you going to be all right to play in 3? And he said something like, if I have to die out there, I will. Like something like that.
Hey man, how I've seen it on television. Me and Kermah both see it on television. How is the crowd when Porzingis comes to the floor? It feels like he's a fucking rock star in Boston.
Dude,
it seems like to the point where he just waits, even like hella late on purpose just to come out to get the hero's welcome before every game.
They need to
it's just like he's milking the shit out of it.
Drop the lights and start playing like the Rocky theme or something, or just like,
because he does the hands and stuff too. He's like, yeah.
It really is something. No, he's become Willis Reed, the Willis Reed of Boston or something. But dude, I mean, Porzingis is an extremely tough cover, and the dimensions he adds at both ends of the floor for the Celtics are just impossible for the Mavericks to deal with, as long as he's mobile enough. So, he might be the difference between, like, if he is banged up, if he can't go on in game 3, or if he's slowed up a little bit. I think that gives the Mavericks a little bit of wiggle room or a little opportunity there. But I'll stick with what I said from the beginning, which was Celtics in 6. But this is starting to look like Celtics in a shorter series. Maybe it's 5. I'm skipping the next 2 games because I've got to go home for some good family stuff. But I'm assuming I'm coming back here in about a week for a game 5.
There you go. All right, let's take a quick break. Then we're going to talk a little Lakers, much to Howard's chagrin. All right, and we are back. It is 10:36 Pacific time here in Los Angeles, where the Lakers are waiting patiently or impatiently on the decision of one Dan Hurley, who at the 11th hour, depending on who you read, was approached by the Lakers with a massive offer that was impressive and compelling and all of the things. Yet he left Los Angeles on Friday without signing a contract and said he'll take the weekend to think it over. This is coming on the heels of the pursuit of JJ Redick, which has been well documented and kind of weird. What the hell are the Lakers doing, Howard Beck?
Oh, my God. I don't know. Sometimes I wonder if they know. This has been a very...
Kerm is crying, right? Kerm is in a very bad place right now.
I'm sorry, Kerm. I really am. This has been among the more peculiar coaching searches we've seen, from the JJ Redick candidacy to JJ Redick being kind of almost universally acknowledged and reported as being the front runner to the 11th hour Dan Hurley, but he's been their top target all along. Huh?
We didn't even hear about that.
Like
as many leaks as we've gotten from the Lakers over the years to just now, it's weird.
It's all a little strange, and I'll just leave it at that. And so as we record this on Monday afternoon, I believe we are 20 minutes away now from what I think is when Hurley's supposed to make some sort of announcement. And I don't know what that's going to be, but let's assume he stays at UConn.
I just don't see him going back to the East Coast and making it. I mean, we're speaking this really early. I just don't see him going all the way back to the East Coast to announce that he's going back to the West Coast. Depends on where the press conference is. It seems weird.
I don't know. I don't know what the location may or may not have to do with it. It would be. I don't know. I just know that if he turns them down, if he stays put, and you've now made a big show of chasing him, we're going to blow him away. We want him to be a long-term coach who establishes a culture and a system and a continuity and and then you don't get him. Well, where does that leave them? But where does that also leave like JJ Redick if JJ was actually the front runner before? Now it looks like he's your second choice. Like how does that go over? Where does that leave Borrego? Is there some other dark horse that we don't even know about yet?
Is Phil Handy just going to come out and just coach the team? Is that just what's going to end up happening? Phil Handy is going to come out. They're not going to have any candidates. Like, Phil, come back.
Somebody already beat me to this joke on Twitter, but Frank Vogel's available. So I can't see Kermah right now. I don't know how that went over. He's just giggling in the background.
I laughed. It was funny at least. I'll give you that.
You let him do a championship.
How do you fumble a coaching search this much, man? Because even the Hurley stuff, right? And we don't know if he's going to be the coach or not. But even the Hurley stuff, it seems like they're just grasping for straws, right? Like if you have been courting JJ Redick this whole time, first of all, why haven't you come to an agreement, right? And then you go to the hottest coach out there who seems to be, at this point, the very least, just trying to gain leverage. What's going on?
Here it is.
What's up?
Tweet from Mr.
Breaking news on Real Ones right now. Breaking news.
From Mr. Woj. Connecticut's Dan Hurley has turned down the Los Angeles Lakers' 6 year, $70 million offer and will return to chase a third straight national title, sources tell
that
ESPN.
That is fucking amazing. Kerm, right now, put the camera on Kerm. What is your reaction right now, Kerm?
This franchise is a joke. I'm gonna keep it a beam, man. We can talk about how important it is, who's coaching Lakers, who isn't. It starts with the front office. I need the Buss family to sell the franchise. Get your billions, chill out, sell the franchise. Rob Pelinka, pack them up, get them out of here. Let's start new. Let's get a real front office in there so we don't have what was the point of this? What's the charade of all of this? This is embarrassing. It's stupid. Now it doesn't matter who the coach is. They're still going to come in there being like, well, I definitely wasn't the first option. If they don't get JJ Redick, I definitely wasn't the second option. This is embarrassing. That's all I'm saying.
Wow. We're getting this all in real time. I'm glad we talked about it. There was some debate whether we should talk about this charade of a fucking coach.
The timing
search.
Ended up perfect.
And now we're here. Now the timing ended up perfect. Howard, your thoughts right now in real time as you're gathering them. What's going on?
Oh, man. What a mess. What a mess, especially because, and listen, people could say, oh, well, the Lakers didn't do this. This was just reports. Like, these reports came from somewhere, folks, and they came out for a reason. They made a big production of this, and now it's blown up. It's done. It's gone. And you're back to where you were. JJ Redick versus James Borrego versus, I don't know, whoever's behind curtain number 3. I don't know where this leaves them, but it does not. Here, part of the problem for the Lakers is that people understandably already kind of look at them askew as an organization. They've had a lot of fumbles the last several years. both with personnel, with coaching hires, with coaching firings. And when the process unfolds like this, it does not inspire confidence across the league, from fans, from media, from rival teams. Everybody looks at it and just shakes their head. It says, what the hell are they doing? And, this has not moved the ball forward. If anything, I think this once again puts them in a bad light, where it looks like they're just kind of grasping at straws. And listen, this could all turn out fine. They could get a great coach. They could hire JJ, and he could turn out to be a great coach for all we know. It's impossible to tell. Trying to predict who will become a good coach, especially if they've never done it before, is an impossible task. Like we need to stop even trying to predict these things. Whether, there was always already the speculation about, could Dan Hurley make the jump or not? College coaches to the NBA, blah, blah, blah. We don't know. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes a guy has the exact right resume and it still doesn't work. I just think that sitting here on June 10th with the Lakers still not knowing who their head coach is and going into, whatever next season is it the last season of LeBron's career? Next to last? None of this is good.
Whoever is the coach right now will go into it clearly knowing that they weren't the number one pick.
Yeah.
And that makes them a lame duck. And whoever gets this job, do they even make it to March, right? Depending on how the season goes. It's going to be really tough. And if you're JJ Redick, it's hard to come back. It's hard to come back into whatever the negotiations was, and I'm sure that'll come out in due time, and how this kind of unfolded. But it's going to be, if it's JJ, right? I don't know if it's Borrego. It doesn't seem like it will be him. It seemed like it was an either or with Dan Hurley or JJ. But if it's JJ indeed, he's going to go into a locker room that knows that he's compromised. And then add that on top of the fact that he's going to have the internal questioning of if this team really wants me. Because the fact of the matter is, they clearly at the 11th hour saw something in you or didn't see something in you to go elsewhere and offer somebody else a massive offer. Was it, you said 6 years, $70 million? Was that what it was?
Something like that, yeah.
You clearly somebody else, that this team that you want to go work for wants somebody else. And you're going to have to think about that every time you make a mistake. And there's fans that are with a big microphone like Kermah and Jomi and all these people that are going to be on your head. And then you have the LeBron element on top of that. It's going to be a tough go for this is going to be pretty big. And I don't really want to speak in hyperboles, but this is going to have ramifications for some years. As long as LeBron is there, there's going to be that influence. There's going to be, because they can't get from under it, right? They're not going to, LeBron's not going anywhere, especially now. He's kind of emboldened, and they're probably going to get the guy that he likes. But more than anything, if it's JJ Redick, it is going to be a tough year to follow the Lakers. Sorry, Kermah. But it's going to be tough.
I mean, listen,
they're going to be a circus next year, no matter what, though.
Well, they always are.
In terms of content,
they're the Lakers. That's built in. But listen, if I'm JJ Redick and I'm sitting at the press conference tomorrow as the Lakers' new head coach, and you say hey JJ, there were reports that the Lakers threw this massive offer, Dan Hurley, who turned them down. How are you feeling about stepping into this, knowing that you were not necessarily the first choice? It's a very easy one to answer. It's very everybody has an ego, and I'm not saying this doesn't matter at all for PR purposes or just impression purposes, right? And I get everything you're saying, but this is a very easy answer. If you're JJ Redick, listen, Dan Hurley's won back-to-back national championships and has been coaching his whole life. I have not coached yet. I think I'm going to be a great coach. I'm certain I'm going to be a great coach, but I don't begrudge the Lakers. It's no slight at me or anybody else. They considered that they would go and chase one of the best coaches in the country who's been doing this a long time and has won back-to-back titles. That's pretty simple. So you can get over that initial hurdle. The bottom line is still whether or not JJ's the right coach at the right time for this team. And what does his staff look like? And can he find the right kind of assistants who can match offset all of the things that he does not have yet, having not done this before. Like it's really important to put together a great staff. And one of the other problems with waiting too long in the cycle to hire a head coach is that sometimes great assistant coaches get yanked off the market too.
Yeah.
And you might miss the opportunity to get guys who would make a great staff.
Yeah, it's just gonna be a tough go though, no matter what, man. Like and even if for any coach that's a first time coach, this Lakers situation is a lot to ask. I mean, we just saw it with Darvin Ham, right? And the spotlight's gonna be on you. LeBron's only a year older. If you don't, and here's another thing with JJ, if this goes bad fast, the internet is going to go crazy. Like it's going to be ridiculous. Like all the old clips are coming up. There's going to be. It's just JR said don't do it, so I'm gonna believe JR. This is not the right move, man. Like JJ, I get it. It's probably the ego trip that he wants to be the Lakers coach and all these things. But a better situation to get what you want as a coach is not the Lakers situation. But there it goes. Sorry, Kerm.
Is Kerm okay? I can't see him.
Kerm's not okay. He's staring in the distance right now.
I'm disassociating real fast. That's me right now.
Yeah. His Sparks suck. His Lakers suck.
Hey,
it's tough right
Sparks
now.
won last night. They did win last night. They beat the Aces last night. Let us have that.
Are there at least
Shout
like
out to the
good
Sparks.
free snacks at Spotify headquarters in LA? Is there something to like just drown
Well,
your
no, they didn't have
sorrows
his
in?
sun chips today.
They didn't even have my sun chips.
They didn't even have his sun
What
chips
is going
today.
on?
Everything's gone wrong for
No
Kerm.
cheddar sun chips. It's not a good
It's not
day.
been a good morning for Kerm. He had to get here early to do Midnight Boys pew pew, and then they didn't have his fucking sun chips. Anyway, great segue into a segment we do every Monday for Howard motherfucking Beck. The motherfucking Mondays, and we're gonna have a motherfucking accent Howard Beck coming on. What's going on? What's going on, Kerm? What we got going?
We already did the intros. Yada yada yada. Life sucks today. Let's do these questions. We'll do the non-accent one first, so we'll do the accent last. Only 2 questions today. First one's from Andrew. We're gonna this is up from a couple weeks ago, so we're kind of detaching from the finals and the playoffs and looking towards the future. Real ones. I enjoy listening to your show, provided he has a very healthy career, plays 15 to 20 seasons, and is surrounded by a solid team for most of those. Can Wembanyama become a top 5 player of all time or possibly the GOAT? His defense already seems primed for an all-time level, and his offense seems to have incredible potential. Given his innate physical gifts and his cerebral understanding of the game, it seems he has the potential to affect basketball on both ends in ways that have yet to be seen. What do you guys think? He could be top 5 all time?
You
Go.
Howard hates these predictions. I think I want to go first. I'm going to go first just to get Howard's mind right. I've said from the beginning, he has all the tools to be a top 5 player of all time. And it's not like and he absolutely showed that potential in this first year. I mean, him going toe to toe with Durant, his first week and dominating during stretches was a big deal. I don't know if he's going to play 20 seasons. I mean, that's a really hard task, especially just his body type, right?
Yeah.
But I do think he has the capabilities to be able to be a multi-time MVP, be a multi-time champion, right? Like, I think he has a lot of tools. He reminds me of Kareem in a lot of ways, just with the body type, but like also the game. He has the Kevin Durant-like game, and he's been able to, he can, you imagine a 7'3" point guard or that can do everything on the floor, right? In spurts, but then he can also go into the post and dominate, and he can also be a rim protector, right? All those things suggest he could be one of the all-time greats. I don't know how long it's going to be though. I don't know. We'll see what happens. But this rookie year was everything that you would want it to be if you're projecting that he could be that good when it's all said and done.
I would just say, just as I didn't want to start predicting a Nuggets dynasty based off one championship, I don't want to start predicting.
They did that. You didn't do that. They did it.
Right. Well, but remember, I pushed back against it. So just as I would push back against too soon proclaiming a team a potential dynasty based on one title, I'm not going to proclaim a player a potential all-time great based on his rookie season. There's a long way to go. There's a lot of course, that has to go right for him. They need obviously a supporting cast. He's going to need a co-star or two along the way. He's going to have to stay healthy. But does the outline of Wembanyama suggest all-time greatness, not just, really good career or outstanding career, but potentially top 20, top 10, top 5? Like, yeah, the outline of what we've seen suggests that that's possible. I feel like we always get ahead of ourselves trying to project that. But my gosh, like the guys, the potential is off the charts. We know all the basics here, the height, the length, the ball handling skills, the ability to protect the rim, but also to do just about everything you could possibly do on offense, handle, shoot, pass. He's got the work ethic. That's the one thing that I always think is overlooked when people start trying to project young guys. There's a lot we don't know about a guy's just his head, right? Like, how dedicated are they? How committed are they? How much do they care? Are they a good teammate? Everything we have learned so far about Wembanyama suggests that he checks all of those boxes. And so that's the stuff that bodes, I think,
and a desire too,
Yeah.
right? Like he has this competitive instinct that I've been seeing as well to complement that work.
Yeah, and there are guys who they have the physical tools and they look the part, but they don't care enough, or they're not dedicated enough, or they're just, not as smart about the game. Their basketball instincts might not be like. There's none of those concerns with him. He, like I said, he checks all of the intangible boxes in addition to all of the tangible boxes. So sky's the limit, but I'm not going to get into how high that sky is, if that makes any damn sense. Probably not.
For sure. All right. Here we go. Let's see what he got. Let's see what Kerm has. This is the accent question.
See, the past couple weeks, I've been gifted, people from the UK with their British accents. I got to, do my impersonation. This week, dudes from Australia, I'm going to be real with you. I know those accents aren't too far apart, but I don't feel comfortable doing the Australian accent. But for y'all, I'll try. We'll see how it goes. Just got to put the disclaimer out there before I even get going. So it's from Kiz. That's his name. He says, fellas, it's kids from down under. Let's talk about real ones on the Celtic side. So far see, this shit sucks. So far in the finals, who you giving the mantle to? Jrue Holiday, Jaylen Brown, or Derek White? I don't want to just talk about stats. I want to talk about hustle and having the stones and giving everything before walking off that floor. So who do you guys have for finals MVP?
Oh, I think we answered it so far, right? It's kind of too early to tell. I'm gonna go because we're kind of making predictions, which is something that Howard Beck loves. I'm gonna go with Jaylen Brown, just because he has the platform to be able to do that, right? Like, I don't know, he's gonna be able to have the shots. He's gonna be playing the lockdown defense. He has the name, he has the stature on the team, so I think that it's gonna be Jaylen.
He's also just had some of those highlight impact plays where we're gonna remember, certain blocks. Breakaway
that dunk on Gafford.
Yeah, the dunk on Gafford. Just everything. Like, there's Jaylen Brown is having, statistically, it doesn't leap off the page, but he's having an outstanding series. But all that said, who the hell knows how these next couple of games are going to unfold? Does Jrue Holiday go off another couple of times? Do we get a weird Andre Iguodala type year where it's, not one of your top two players who ends up winning MVP just based on their all-around contributions? And I know Iguodala was a really special, unique case, but this could still go a lot of different directions. And by the way, again, on the belief that Tatum is their best player still, despite everything, and despite what Jason Kidd might say in a press conference for other purposes, I don't think he's going to keep shooting this poorly. So if Tatum just goes back to producing at the level that we're normally used to seeing, and that helps them close out the series,
we're still due for a Tatum game, man. We're still due for
maybe
a Tatum
couple.
game.
Like, this could very easily still go right back to him. So, I mean, we're 2 games in. It's who knows.
We'll see. Thank you.
Well, one last part of this question. He asks, as a second course, when are you guys going to start a Real Ones Hall of Fame? Send, these individuals a real trophy. Real Ones should be a recognized award.
Open the budget, Spotify. That's all I got to say. Open the budget.
A Hall of Fame for who?
We could start for real ones. Real ones of
Yeah,
a
well, we
real
have
ones
the
Hall
real
of
one of the
Fame.
week, but like a real one Hall of Famer. Like you're a legend forever,
You're minted.
crystallized.
We got to do certificates. Probably certificates. That's probably cheaper than a
Do
trophy.
we keep track? Do you have like Kerm? Do you got a spreadsheet somewhere?
I don't know. Hey, yo, do we have anybody that keeps track of all the real ones?
Okay, starting today, every real one of the week will officially be canonized. You're officially
4
canon
years
if you're
in.
a real one of the week. Everyone before this, except for me, I'm a 2-time real one of the week. I know that. I do remember that. Everybody else, I'm sorry, we forgot about you. But
Oops.
starting today, in June 2024, if you're a real one of the week, you're now a legendary. We'll never forget you. It'll be written down on a document somewhere.
For shiz, on a Google Doc somewhere. Okay, well, if you want great content like this, make sure you send your email. I haven't said this over the last few weeks, and I need to just do it. RealOnesMailbag@gmail.com. 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 What's that again, Kerm?
RealOnesMailbag@gmail.com.
What's that, Howard Beck?
I believe it's real ones mailbag at gmail.com.
You motherfucking right. And that's been another edition of Motherfucking Mondays. I'm Logan Murdock. That is Howard Beck. That's Jonathan Kermah. We out this motherfucker. Bye.